Something great has happened and love has taken hold and it won't let go of us now.
Something here is calling us forward, upward motion. We're drops in one ocean, roll on.
Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice
and boldly say,
we are the ones we've been waiting for. Live the dream of your highest calling. Be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth edition of the Divine Feminine Peace Spa produced by the Association for Global New Thought. I'm Barbara Fields, the Executive Director of AG&T, and I am delighted to be hosting with one of my lovely new friends, Jackie Fernandez-Lanati, a very special program tonight featuring Dolores Huerta, Camila Chavez, along with Jackie. And we'll begin quite right away. One of the things that I wanted to share with you is that what we call the Divine Feminine Peace Spa is a way of getting our community of faith and other faith communities together online once a month so that we can learn about some of the very critical social issues that are facing us in our time. And most importantly, to hear from international feminine leaders who have accomplished miraculous things and to show us that there's a special edge that feminine leadership and sensibility really brings to the table, especially when it comes to political and social issues. Last month, our guest was Mrs. Ila Gandhi from South Africa, who shared with us so much about her lifetime of work in nonviolent social change, of course, carrying out the legacy of her grandfather, Mahatma Gandhi. And before that, we had a couple of sessions from Tokyo with Masami Sayonji, who is the co-founder of the Goy Peace Foundation and the World Peace Prayer Society, and has done remarkable work in terms of international interreligious dialogue and social issues. So what I'm going to do first is introduce you to Jackie, who is my co-host today. Reverend Jackie Fernandez-Lanati is a Unity minister and an award-winning filmmaker who leads the media team at Unity Worldwide Ministries in creating media resources and training for leaders. Through her Prayer to Action ministry, Jackie engages spiritual communities in the process of expanding social action participation with the intent to influence a world reality of inclusion and peace. Jackie also happens to be the niece of Dolores Huerta, which I found out only on the telephone when I mentioned that AG&T was hoping to have Dolores on this program. So what could be better than that? So Jackie, I wonder if you would now take over and introduce your aunt and Camila to us right now.
It's my true joy. So first we have my aunt, my grandfather Marshall's big sister, Dolores Huerta, and her bio. The work that she has done and the career that she has, the legacy that she is living is profound. And so it is my great honor to introduce her to you. She is the president and founder of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. She is a celebrated Latina labor leader, activist, and community organizer. She has worked for civil rights and social justice for over 50 years. In 1962, she and Cesar Chavez founded the United Farm Workers Union. She served as vice president and played a critical role in many of the union's accomplishments for 4 decades. In 2002, she received the Puffin Nation $100,000 prize for creative citizenship, which she used to establish the Dolores Huerta Foundation. The Dolores Huerta Foundation connects community-based organizing to state and national movements to register and educate voters, advocate for education reform, and bring about infrastructure improvements in low-income communities, advocates for greater equality for the LGBT community, and to create strong leadership development. And so I'll share with you a little bit about her early life. She was born on April 10th, 1930, so tomorrow is her birthday, as Dolores Clara Fernandez. And she was born in Dawson, a mining town in the mountains of New Mexico. Her father, Juan Fernandez, a farm worker and miner by trade, was a union activist who ran for political office and won a seat in the New Mexico legislature in 1938. Her mother, Alicia Chavez, was an independent businesswoman. She owned and ran a 70-room hotel. So Dolores spent most of her childhood and early adult life in Stockton, California, where she and her two brothers moved with their mother following their parents' divorce. She was married twice and had a long-term relationship with Richard Chavez, the brother of Caesar, and also Camila's father, Richard Chavez. She has 11 children and many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And most of her children have dedicated themselves to public service. And there's just a whole list of honors that she has received for this incredible work. She is a 2-time U.S. Presidential Award recipient. She received the Medal of Freedom Award from President Barack Obama in 2012, the highest civilian award in the United States. She also received the Eleanor D. Roosevelt Human Rights Award from President Clinton in 1998. She has received many other awards, including Mexico's Order of the Aztec Eagle Award, which is the highest decoration awarded by the Mexican government to foreign nationals. The James Smithson Award from the Smithsonian Institute, the Icons of the American Civil Rights Movement Award, bestowed to her in 2011 by the National Civil Rights Museum. Huerta is a U.S. Department of Labor Hall of Honor inductee, and she was the very first Latina inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. She is a former UC Regent and has earned honorary doctorates from universities throughout the United States. So I present to you my tia, Dolores Huerta. And also joining us is Camila Chavez, her youngest daughter. My cousin is the co-founder and executive director of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. And from the Dolores Huerta Foundation headquarters in Bakersfield, California, Camila oversees training for low-income community members in the areas of leadership and organizing skills, specific to civic and electoral participation so that they can become catalysts for change in their own communities. Camila Chavez.
Hi, Camila and Dolores. Did you just want to quick check in and say hello to all the people who have gathered today to listen to this webcast?
Hi, this is Dolores, and I just want to thank you, Jackie, for that beautiful introduction. And I want to thank you also, Barbara, for inviting us to join you on your program. The thoughts and the actions and the talk of peace is so important right now that we have in our very might say chaotic world that we're living in right now. So thank you for inviting us to be part of this show.
Our pleasure. Camila, want to just check in and say hi?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to have this conversation this evening.
Wonderful. So as is our custom on these divine feminine peace spas, is we like to start out sometimes with a blessing or an invocation. And that can come in many forms. And so today I've found a video, a song that was created by some young people about human rights. And I thought that in order to start our program today that I would share that one with you. So I'm going to gear that up right now.
From the very beginning of your life, you were born with something called human rights. or religion. Human rights, human rights. No matter about your language, status, or your origin. Human rights, human rights. It don't matter who you are, everybody near and far. You got rights, we got rights. Everybody's got their human rights. You got rights, we got rights. Everybody, everyone, everywhere. It's human rights. Everyone, everywhere. It's human rights. No matter what they say, no matter what they do, no one has a right to take your rights from you. Human rights, human rights. It don't matter who you are, everybody near and far. You got rights, we got rights. Everybody, everyone, everywhere. It's human rights. Everyone, everywhere.
So great. I thought that that was kind of cute. And now we'll get into our program. So one of the first things that I would like to inform you of is that we want you to listen very carefully to the information that Camila and Dolores are going to present about the Dolores Huerta Foundation. Of course, we're asking the AGNT community and the registrants of this webinar to help support their work in any way that they can. Her programs, like many nonprofits, are in serious need of funding in order to keep going and serve all the people that they do serve. So we have set up a website, and I'll see if I can show it to you. It's at agnt.today. Let me see if I can set up the whiteboard for you. Oh, I guess it isn't here. agnt.today, and I'll send information after this webinar about exactly which link you should use in order to go. It's very easy to do. You can learn a little bit more about the foundation and about the work and contribute directly, and 100% of whatever funding we do bring in is going to go directly to the foundation. And anyone who requests a tax exemption letter from AGNT, which is a tax exempt 501c3, will be happy to send that to you. So the next thing I'm going to do here is to ask Jackie if you'll go ahead and set up the discussion, maybe talk a little bit about the broadcast of the film that's coming up and how the film can be accessed, and whether or not you want to play that trailer clip for our viewers today.
Yeah. So the documentary Dolores, which was produced by Carlos Santana and directed by Peter Bratt, was screened on PBS actually 2 weeks ago on March 24th. But you can still see it by going to pbs.org. And if you search Dolores, the movie, you can actually still stream the film. And then also you could go to doloresthemovie.com in order to see where there are live screenings happening around the country. And it is a fabulous collection of footage, interviews with Dolores, of course, and Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Gloria Steinem, Angela Davis, Camila, and several of your siblings, Camila, are in it. And it really is, a full force group of people who have been there witnessing the work of Dolores and telling her story, but also this amazing footage that has been taken over the years. And I know for me that was like really profound to watch you as a young woman out there and just doing it, and to really take in the scope of your work and the path that you've taken is just tremendous. And to hear you tell the story, but also to see it in your own words, like at the time. So I highly recommend this film. It's, and the way they included music and dance. My favorite quote being, "You are a dancer on the stage of justice," is like beautiful. Angela Davis said that. And so it's not just that it highlights your work, but it also really, to me, it captures you and who you are and the essence of what inspires you. When you said, this might sound corny, but you have to love people to do this work. It was like, yeah, that of course you love people, because you have laid down your life for people and through the power of that love. So I'm a huge fan of the movie, and I think we're going to show a clip here. Do you have that queued up, Barbara, or am I pulling that?
No, I do have it. And here's what I was thinking is, why don't we get into the interview a little, because I'm sure the viewers are really interested to hear from Dolores and Camila. And then somewhere in the middle of that, I do have the clip pulled up so we can watch it at any point. So why don't we dive right in?
Okay, absolutely. So, the film does like a fantastic job of, like I said, of really capturing the work, and then kind of where it leaves off is it announces and presents that you're doing the work, that you won the award, and, you could have done anything you want. There were no strings attached with that $100,000 gift. And so, of course, you gave it away to your work, and you started the Dolores Huerta Foundation. And so I would love to hear from you. What was your vision when you first started the foundation? What did you envision for this foundation? And then for both of you to talk about how Camila came to be a co-founder and executive director. Tell us that story.
Well, I've always wanted to go back to grassroots community organizing. And when I resigned from the Farm Workers Union, and when I received that incredible gift from the Puffin Foundation, it just seemed to come at the right time. And so I was able to use that money. And so I started the foundation, and I was very fortunate enough to have Camila say that she wanted to join me in the effort. And so our foundation is now 15 years old, which they say is really great, because they say a lot of organizations don't last past 7 years. So I think that we're now in our adolescence. We've come out of the crawling stage in terms of an organization, and in the meantime, we've been able to, through our grassroots organizing, be able to empower many people so that they can make their communities a lot better. We've done a lot of work on infrastructure. In many of the places here in California, although people don't think of California is having a lot of rural communities, we have a lot of places where people don't have sidewalks or streets, curbs and gutters, sewers, street lights, and this is of course where many immigrant workers live, many farm workers live. And luckily, by empowering people and showing them the skills of organizing, they've been able to take on these challenges and make the communities a better place. So, and many of them are now, by the way, also sitting on school boards and city councils, utility boards, recreation boards. And so the idea is to really convince people that they have power, and then invite them to do the work so that they can hone up their leadership skills. And it's really quite fantastic to see. We're active in 10 different school districts. We're active in 3 different counties in the Central Valley of California. And we're doing a lot of work on stopping the school-to-prison pipeline. And that is by organizing parents and students to confront their school districts and demand that they keep the kids in school, that they don't expel them, that they don't suspend them. And so we have a lot of work on our hands, but thankfully it is working.
And so, Camila, do you want to share, how did you come to be involved as a co-founder and as the executive director, and share with us maybe some more details about the current initiatives that you're working?
It's really interesting because growing up, Dolores, who founded the Farm Workers Union, and, I was raised as a union baby. My weekends were, as with my siblings, were on marches and rallies and all of that. And all of, many of my family members worked for the UFW, the United Farm Workers Union, and I was, just felt like I needed to do something different, right? I knew that I would not follow in that trend. So I actually went to college in the Bay Area. I got involved in public health and was moving my way up this, management ladder, and started to realize, there were really big problems within the public health system here in California, and felt that I did not have the power to make the change, and that I really didn't even have the knowledge to know how to actually implement change. So that's when I thought, maybe I should find out about policy and changing laws, by working with my mom. And so she, at that, she had already resigned from the UFW in 2002. And it was about that time I overheard her talking with her friends, and she wanted to start some kind of organizing institute. And I told her that I was interested. I wanted to work with her, and I wanted to learn more from her. And the way I became an executive director was just by accident for our very first grant proposal. And they said, "Who's your executive director?" And a board member said, "Well, you should put down Camila." And I didn't object. What I know now, I would have objected. Naivety, right? So there I was with this title and have learned on the job. And we have grown, in the last 15 years. We're celebrating our quinceañera. For familiar with that term, it's a celebration in the Latino culture when young women turn 15. It's like this, kind of a celebration into womanhood. So that's where we're at now. I think it's fitting for the title of this conversation, right? The Divine Feminine.
It is, yes, absolutely.
To talk a little bit about the projects that we're doing now, just like Dolores said, we're teaching everyday people that they have the power to be the change that they want to see in their communities. These are folks who, are immigrants, Spanish speakers, people who have never been invited to decision-making tables, who really don't know how to navigate political systems. And we're there to teach them and to coach them how to do that. Through community organizing. Our two core projects that we work on, as Dolores said, civic engagement. So just teaching people how to improve their communities through infrastructure improvements. They've been able to get new parks, renovated swimming pools, things that they saw that they needed, stoplights, street lights, all of that. We've helped them where they are the ones who become their own advocates to get those community improvements, as well as educating voters. If we are truly to live in a democracy, everyone must participate. Unfortunately, we have very high rates of apathy or just the lack of knowledge, where people don't understand how to register, where to register, and then what that means, that once they are registered, how to really keep themselves informed and to know how to vote. So we have developed a base of over 20,000 supportive voters who are low propensity. That means that they hardly ever make it to the polls, and we are there targeting them specifically, unlike candidates who won't even have conversations with them or waste their time with them. We go and really teach them the importance of being involved and engaged, and educate them about what's on the ballot so they feel like they can make informed decisions. And then the other aspect of our work is really on education reform, which Dolores mentioned about the school to prison pipeline. And we've had major success. We just won a historic civil rights lawsuit agreement here in Kern County in California. It's the largest high school district in California. And they were pushing out Latino and African American students at extremely high rates. In 1 year alone, 2,500 Latino and African American students were pushed out. We filed a lawsuit. We just won, which means that the entire district that serves 38,000 students will have to revamp their discipline policies and practices. And so it's, working with other partners where we're, have a community organizing approach, a litigation approach, and, to really bring about the changes that we need in our communities.
Amazing. And, I'm really cueing into the term you used about the students being pushed out. They're like, commonly the terminology is that they're dropping out, but to really dig into the system and to what's pushing our young people out of the school system, and then to call the system on the, to the mat on that, and to really cultivate change and demand change. And, and to pair that with your work with voter education. I heard Dolores talked when she was here in Kansas last week, talking about how Latino voters don't want to make mistakes. And so, teaching people how to vote, that even if you don't know all of the policies or everything that's up at an election, that you vote for what you do know and what you do want to support. So can you speak to that and some of the details in voter education?
Well, I think that's very important, Jackie. Thank you for bringing that up, because we know, and maybe not only Latino families, but a lot of people, they get these ballots and they have so many names for the different public offices that people are running, and then they have all the different propositions on the ballot, and so they think, oh my goodness, I don't know all these people, and I don't know what these propositions are about. So sometimes they just don't vote because they think that they have to vote for the entire ballot. And I think that's the one thing that we have to let people know. Just vote for what you know. But I do want to add something to the work that we do. Since we know that all of the people that are listening here are very committed to nonviolence and committed to peace. So a lot of what we do is to enlighten people to raise their consciousness. So we know sometimes people are so busy with their daily work schedule or their family issues that they have, that they don't really think about the other things that are happening around them. And we know that we have a lot of issues when it comes to environmental justice. We have a lot of issues when it comes to civil rights issues. Right now we have a big attack on our immigrant community that is happening. We have all of these DACA students, for instance, that are really concerned about whether they're going to be able to stay here in this country. So part of the civic action work that we teach people is that you can make a difference by petitioning, by visiting your local city councilman, your local congressperson. So we have to do many times a lot of demonstrations. We do vigils. We team up with our local clergy to do vigils at our congressperson. In fact, our congressman is Kevin McCarthy, who happens to be the majority leader of the U.S. Congress. And we have had a lot of difficulty even getting meetings with them. They keep their door locked. But that doesn't stop us, because we've had fasts and we've had overnight vigils in front of his office, etc. To make sure that they listen to us. And the other thing too is, like, we had our first Pride March. Part of our organization that we do is we have full-time paid Pride organizers, LGBT organizers, because we want to enlighten our community, in the Latino community, to make them understand that everybody has, as the video said, human rights. And LGBT rights are human rights, the right to marry whomever you love or care for, and also women's reproductive rights. And sometimes we have, and as you may know, in our Latino community, we have many people who are Catholics, a very strong tradition of Catholicism, and also evangelicals, and some of these other congregations. They're very, very, how shall I say, they're very hard on our LGBT community. They're very hard on women who decide that they want to have control over their own bodies. So part of organizing, in addition to civic education, is just to inform people about our human rights and to respect other people's human rights.
Yeah, beautifully said. And along the theme of nonviolence is you have been through the dark days, in the span of your career. You've been arrested 22 times, Dolores. You were, in 1988, you were almost beaten to death by the San Francisco police while you were engaged in peaceful protest. You've seen, the dark days of the Martin Luther King assassination, both Kennedy assassinations. You were there with Bobby Kennedy at his final speech before he walked off the podium and was shot and killed. You've marched with farm workers who were beaten and killed by police, who were, fighting the good fight alongside with you. And today even you witness and about police brutality and the shooting that just happened in Sacramento. And so how over 50 years do you still maintain yourself as a light bearer for nonviolence in the face of these issues that provoke deep and profound anger in people?
I really do believe that nonviolence is a very spiritual force. And I do believe that nonviolence has a lot of power. And, the more that we invoke nonviolence and that we try to respond to hatred with love. And I know that sounds a little, we might say, trite or corny, because it's very, very difficult sometimes to do that. But I think that we do have to practice that. And sometimes our message does get through to people. And as long as we don't respond to the kind of hatred with anger and more hatred, and instead of we turn that energy that we have, when we get angry, turn that energy into a positive force. And that positive force does have a way of reaching people eventually. But the main thing is that if we have a lot of anger inside of us, and that just, it's a toxic force within ourselves. And so we have to figure out, how can we turn that anger into light? Because this is the only way, as they say, the only thing that the darkness cannot erase darkness. Only light can erase darkness. And we have to just remember that only light can erase darkness. And even as difficult as that may seem sometimes, we still have to have the faith that things will get better. We know a lot of our immigrant families, as you know, are being separated by these immigration raids. We've seen many raids on the farmer community, which is very sad, because these are the people who are working so hard to put the food on our table, and yet they are not respected the way that they should be. But I think we still have to have a positive outlook and realize that things are going to get better. And sometimes when we have a lot of chaos, that is actually when things will suddenly be able to expand and to things that before that we couldn't do before. And I think when we look at the Me Too movement, for instance, here we have women that have complained for years about sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. Then you have this spontaneous Me Too movement that comes out in response to all of this, and we see immediately that there's a lot of changes, or with the young people marching for gun control. For years and years, of people have been getting killed by the misuse or overuse of guns, either by citizens or law enforcement. And now we see that the young people are taking this as their issue. So I think this is why we have to always have faith, and we always have to have hope.
Think of too that how in the documentary about you, it talked about the United Farm Workers. There were more women involved in the early days of the United Farm Workers union than in all of the other labor unions combined. And I'm looking here at you and Camila as the executive director, and I'm curious to today when you're on the ground doing the work, how you are pushing against, back against machismo, or, a culture that still would prefer to see men in power. How are you cultivating women as leaders?
Oh, do you want to talk about that, Camila? I mean, the main thing is, I'll say something that I hope I invite Camila also to join in. But the main thing is that we do find that when we start doing our planning and we ask for people to volunteer to do the work that needs to be done in our communities, whether it's doing the petitioning or organizing for demonstrations, whatever it may be, that we find that the women, it seems like the women are always the ones, or most of the work is done by the women that come to the forefront. Not everybody, but I need to say about 80% of the work is usually being done by women. And so they are then, of course, by doing the work, this is how they grow their leadership. But we are, and not just middle-aged women, but also we have a lot of younger women. And I would like to ask Camila to speak to that also.
To speak to the what? The last thing you said? Okay, I didn't get the last thing you said. I think because the mics are going back and forth. It's a little.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but when I was saying that I wanted to ask you to speak up to the issue that we have a lot of women that are involved in our organizing and in the actions that we take.
Right, and what we find is that when we go, the communities that we work in, again, predominantly immigrant, Latino, monolingual Spanish speakers, but women are the decision makers for their families. And so when it comes to talking about, the changes in their communities, they're the ones that know, what needs to be improved, whether it's a park, a swimming pool. They're thinking about their entire family as far as recreation services, safety, and 90% of our Vecinos Unidos, the United Neighbors chapters, are women. And the other thing is that when it comes to controversial topics such as choice and, LGBT rights, that it's, many times, it's a difficult conversation, but the fact that we're sitting down and we're having the conversation, unlike the Catholic Church, who might be telling them certain things on Sunday, that we say, look, we want to have the conversation and we're going to talk about what the consequences are to our communities. So years ago, there was a very controversial ballot on the, it was an initiative on the state ballot about young women being able to access abortion services should they feel that they need an abortion. And, so no, that's wrong. Let's talk about it. What does that mean for the young women in this community who come from, troubled homes, and what, resources do they have? Let's think about how they would navigate their way through this new system that's trying to, be proposed. And it was after these conversations that the women say, okay, I get it. And I'm not thinking about my own family. I'm going to be considerate of my neighbors and their neighbors and what this can mean for our entire community. So that's a blessing about working with predominantly women. And then I'm on a coalition. We're just starting a Central Valley-wide coalition. It's 10 organizations. And guess what? The majority of the people working, plan this out in the planning meetings and all of that are women, right? And so, women just take so much leadership. And so that's what, we find within our work.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And thanks for sharing about that with the community-wide organization. And so you're seeing the women in leadership, but also as almost as servant leaders, like in the sense that not up above everyone and everyone else follow me, but like doing the work together, like what you've been describing is a community style of leadership with working together. And that's powerful. I'm wondering, Barbara, do we want to show the trailer for the documentary? Just to kind of give some imagery to what we've been talking about?
Yeah, that would be fine. So let's show that now, and then when we come back from the trailer, let's see if, let me put it out to the attendees who are watching the webinar. If anyone has questions that they would like to share live on the screen, think about those now as we watch the trailer, and then we'll come back and take some of those questions, okay?
First general that I followed into war.
She's not afraid to speak truth to power.
Dolores Huerta, who is an old friend of mine.
The FBI knew how dangerous Dolores was. Dolores came up with the slogan, "Si se puede."
Yes, we can.
You were a young girl growing up in America in the 40s. You must have had a dream.
After I had seen the miserable conditions of farm workers, Cesar Chavez said, we have to organize a union. You had this ambience all around you that you could really change the world.
It was beyond question the largest gathering on behalf of farm workers in California history.
I wish they'd all go back to where they came from. We had no labor troubles.
She wasn't asking for permission. She just did what needed to be done.
She has such a firm belief in what she's doing.
We've never given up.
That she infects you with it.
Dolores Huerta. 90,000 people were poisoned in the fields of the United States of America.
Farm workers founded the whole idea of environmental justice.
Men were threatened by her power.
She's a very volatile individual.
She's an insult.
People wanted to see her in a more traditional role.
I left a couple of my children behind.
That's part of the sacrifice that we made and that we had to make.
And it still pains me when I think about it.
People in power have no idea of the true heroes of this country.
I would not have been able to see what's hidden in the fields of our country without Dolores.
We're knee deep in sexism when it comes to why she isn't studied and why people don't know her.
Latina girls need to see statues of you.
We really got to set the record straight. I mean, women cannot be written out of history.
Down with violence! Abajo! Down with racism! Abajo! Down with sexism! Abajo!
Yeah, so that is certainly very powerful and something that we should all be looking forward to and trying to find. And I'll send more information about that out to you all as a follow-up. Very exciting. So let me see if I can ask some of our attendees today if anyone has any questions for Dolores or Camila or a comment to make. You know that many of you have been on this platform before, and you know that you can raise your hand. And if I see that your hand is raised, I'll call on you to talk. And I suspected, as usual, everyone's kind of shy. You're afraid to come up and actually ask your question or talk. Now, that's not right. It takes a whole community of us to make these changes that we're talking about when it comes to feminine leadership. Well, maybe I'll just ask a question while we're asking for some of the people to reconsider. And this is a question that I'd like to ask Dolores. I learned that this is about the importance of feminine leadership. And I learned that after Cesar's death, you were an advocate for the board of the union to give the presidency to a younger person to take the organization forward, because just before that, you had taken a leave of absence to go to Washington, D.C. to work in the feminization of power movement to get more women and women of color elected to the state legislature. And in this time when we're looking at a midterm election coming up and all the chaos going on in our system, I'd really like to get a couple of your thoughts about how to encourage women of every color, every race, every religion, every generation to think now about getting involved in the political system so that we're not necessarily only the servant leaders or the unseen leaders, because it's time for us to become a little bit more visible, not in terms of our own ego gratification, but in order for us to have more power to make a difference. So I wonder if you would make a couple of comments about that.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, actually, that was in 1992 after the 90 census, and I'm on the board of the Feminist Majority, and we went throughout the country trying to get women to run. And it's really interesting if you contrast that with what's happening now, because, you know, first we went to California meeting with different women's organizations, and some places you'd have like maybe 10 people, and some you'd have 20 people, maybe 30, and we would say to them, we have to get women to run for office, and you have to find somebody in your community to run, and if you can't find somebody, one of you has to run. And we had 100 women running for different positions, and many of them got elected to city councils and supervisors and to the legislature in California. And in fact, that year we actually had 30% of the state legislature that went to women, and the largest number of African American and Latinas ever elected to the state legislature. We had the first Latina from California, Lucille Roybal, elected to the Congress, and we had the first Puerto Rican woman from New York, Nidia Velázquez. Both of these women are still in the U.S. Congress, by the way. So, but it's interesting that it was so hard to get women to run, and now with the Me Too movement, you have women all over the country. A historical moment in our time right now that you have so many women running for office, and that is so important. And I always like to quote Coretta Scott King, who said that we will never have peace in the world until women take power. But I like to amend the statement to say we will never have peace until feminists take power. So I think that because we do know that it's not just being a woman, it's just being a person that really cares about the environment and immigrants' rights and workers' rights and women's reproductive rights and LGBT rights. So I think we have to expand the definition to say it's not just women, it's got to be feminist women. And as we know, we have many men who are also feminists.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I wanted to also point out that it takes both parts of our brains and all of our genders and everyone to basically make a world that functions properly. But there's a reason for why women have different sensibilities and sensitivities about how to solve problems. And we have always characteristically, it's been our utmost priority to preserve life and to protect life and to share with the community, and not really to have a zero-sum game of win-lose proposition or power or dominance over others. So I think that you're very right in saying that out of this chaos, something really useful might happen in our system these days, that it might be time for breakthrough on many levels. So I just wanted us all to entertain that thought. And we're getting about 10 minutes away. We've got a couple fun things to do before we close the program tonight, but I wanted to put this back in Jackie's court to find out if she had any closing questions, or if anyone had any closing comments that they wanted to share before we move on with the rest of our closing program. Jackie, did you?
Sure. Well, and I love that you brought it back around to the chaos. And Dolores, how you talked about chaos, being opportunity. We know that's like the birthplace of creative power. And so we just heard that the trailer for the documentary where the quote was, she's a volatile individual. And it's, a volatility in the most, profound and divine way of being a catalyst for change and, shaking a system up that doesn't want to change or shift. So I think that that's just, present throughout, the course of your career, and you still are being a volatile woman. And I hear that as a compliment. And so would we all be volatile women, and in the way where we intend to make the world, a better place, a just and a place filled with equality and true peace and nonviolence. And so I just thank you both for the work that you're doing, for the commitment you make every day to stand as women, as proud Latina women, and to make a fight that is a fight for the good in the world and for people. It's powerful and tremendous.
Thank you, Jackie. Well, if there are a couple of comments at the end, we'll have a couple of more minutes to take them. But right now, I'd like to share a little gift with Dolores, because just a small little token of something that couldn't begin to give back for all that you've given us. But it's something that is appropriate on the eve of your birthday, and we'll also celebrate your birthdays before we're done today. So I'm going to share the screen with you and a little program that we put together for you.
Break the rhythm, it's harder than hell to be the courage to follow yourself, to declare your name as one and the same, with the whole human race, every face, every place. That is the noble, that is the wise, that is the human, that is the kind of hero we need. To give peace a chance with all of your worth, to breathe forgiving breath back to the earth, beyond the dream, to throw your own love before hard bullets silence the last doves. This is the noble, this is the wise, this is the human, this is the kind of hero we need. Wise, humankind, noble, voices deeper than words. The river is raging with or without this verse. Millions of people are out in the streets. Millions of people refuse to be meek. These are the noble, these are the wise. are the human, these are the kind, these are the noble, these are the wise, these are the human, and you are the kind of hero we need. Wise, humankind. You are the noble, you are the wise, you are the human, you are the kind of hero we need.
So thank you very much. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually have a little happy birthday song.
Cumpleaños feliz, te deseamos a ti, que los cumplas en tu día, que los cumplas feliz. Cumpleaños feliz, te deseamos a ti, que los cumplas en tu día, que los cumplas feliz, que los cumplas en tu día, que los cumplas feliz.
Okay, so are there any closing comments? Jackie, would you like to ask either Dolores or Camila? Happy birthday to both of you, Camila, yesterday, and tomorrow you, Dolores. It's your 88th, and you're going to be with us and working for us for a very long time, and we're really very blessed to have your lifetime of work. So, Jackie, would you like to make any closing comments or ask any closing?
I would. We cannot close without Así se puede chat. And so, Dolores, can you just tell us how those words fell from your mouth the first time, and then lead us in a chant?
Well, in closing, I would just like to say thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Barbara, for having us on. And we do want to tell people if they would like to learn more about the Dolores Huerta Foundation. We are not the United Farm Workers. I just want to make that clear. We're a separate organization. And if they would like to learn more about our organization, they can look at our website, doloreshuerta.org. That's DOLORESHUERTA.org. Or if they want to join our social justice movement, you can do it on your cell phone. Put joindhf.org. Joindhf.org. And I just want to congratulate all of you for all of the great work that you're doing. And I don't know, Camilla might have some parting words also.
Just an announcement that, about the video, that it's actually for sale on our website as well. So if you'd like to have your own copy of the DVD or Blu-ray, you can purchase it from the Dolores Huerta Foundation as well. And then just to quickly answer some, I saw on the chat a question about why young women should take leadership roles. And, I gave a story about how I wasn't ready to be an executive director. And Dolores always says that leadership cannot be taught, it has to be learned. And so the way that we learn is on the job. And just like we do with community residents is that, it's hands-on, organizing their learning as they're doing. That's the same with leadership, that it's, now is the time. So hopefully the young women that are listening to this will think about what is the next leadership position that they're going to pursue.
Wonderful, thank you. And I put that in the chat stream, joindhf.org and also doloreshuerta.org, and then you can buy the DVD of the film there.
Thank you. So you want to do Si Se Puede?
Yeah.
Okay. So we do it all together? Okay. Lead it off, Jackie.
Sí, se puede. Sí, sí, se puede. Sí, se puede. Sí, sí, se puede. Sí, se puede. Sí, sí, se puede.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tell us that, how the response, that the first time you said that slogan, what was your response to?
Well, it was a response to a bunch of men who were saying that they couldn't do what we did in California and Arizona, and my response to them was, yes, you can, si se puede. And so people kind of took up that chant, and now, as we know, it's very popular all over the United States, all over Mexico, and there's actually a political party in Spain called the Podemos Party, and their slogan is si se puede.
Did you mind that President Obama stole that one for you?
Yes, and that's what he said. When he said, I stole your slogan, I said, yes, you did.
Well, tomorrow everyone's going to get an email follow-up that, and into which I'll also put information about how to find out more about the Huerta Foundation and how to join and how to contribute as well. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for the program tonight. Very inspiring to me, and I'm sure it was to everyone else. And I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I will.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Thank you very much, everybody.